Radio Show. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today to the 25th hour radio show here on Monster Radio, AM 1150. I am your host, Rob Fairless, and on the phone with me today is multi-platinum selling singer-songwriter Geoff Tate. Of course, you recognize Geoff's name from bands Queensrÿche and his current band Operation Mindcrime. Geoff, thanks for being on the show, buddy.
Oh, nice to be here, Robert. How are you?
I'm doing good, sir. Geoff, everyone out there who's listening right now basically understands that my show is about people in general. People who had a dream, a goal, who set out to achieve that goal and was successful in doing so. So for you, Mr. Tate, it was music. Where did it all start? I mean, at what point in your life did the sound of music affect you enough you wanted to create it yourself?
Well, my earliest memory is from when I was around 9 years old. I really became fascinated with sound and music in general. And my parents were, amateur musicians, and we had instruments around the house. They had a piano, and I spent a lot of time at the piano. I told my mom that I wanted to, learn how to play music, and she told me I needed to, take formal instruction, and which I was fine with, and started taking piano lessons in that same year when I was 9. But I had a hard time staying with the program. I tended to drift off a lot and kind of start tinkering on my own and coming up with, note combinations, which were, ended up being, forming chords and then chord progressions. And I began writing at a very early age. And I've continued my fascination with music all through my adult life. I just find it to be one of the most interesting things I've ever been involved with.
So as far as the numerous styles and genres of music that's out there to be listened to be performed, etc., what was it about rock music, / metal music that you found your home there when there were so many sounds and styles to choose from?
Well, back then we didn't really have as much attention focused on genres as there is today. It was just music, and genre wasn't a thing that you aimed for. It was just something you found yourself in, at least in my case. I found myself working with a group of musicians, and our music was categorized and first noticed by people that were interested in heavy metal music, and that's where my band Queensrÿche came to be noticed was through that. But I've never really been interested in quantifying or defining my music by somebody else's definition. I think it can be anything. And what's interesting to me is recently this last year, I had an acoustic tour that I was touring with, and I took all the songs for the tour and performed them acoustically with different instruments, violin and cello and acoustic guitar and mandolin, and the songs stood up great. That's kind of the way they originally were written. Most of my songs have been written on either piano or acoustic guitar. So, a song can be anything. It can be played in any style. It can be played it just really depends on the musician and what their imagination can allow them to, do.
Now, speaking of that acoustic tour, I personally love the stripped down versions of songs that's performed acoustically, especially, man, if they're performed in intimate settings, smaller venues. What made you decide to go that acoustic route?
It was really a spur of the moment decision. My wife and I were in Ireland, and we were traveling around, and we were in Cork City one day, and beautiful sunny day, and we were walking down the street, and we heard a street band playing acoustically, and we went up and started listening to them play and watching them perform. And I leaned over and I said, I want to do this with my music. I want to strip it back and perform it acoustically. And she said, as a joke, she says, "Why don't you hire this band?" And it just hit me. I said, why don't I?" And so I went up and talked to them and hired them for my tour. And it was fantastic. I mean, they were great players, and we had a fantastic time touring around Europe. And it was a really, really fun and successful tour.
So from having other musicians on the show, I've come to realize that success in the music industry doesn't happen overnight. It takes years of hard work and sometimes even a little bit of luck to get your foot in the door. So my question to you on this is, once you started seeing the commercial success with your music, was it everything you dreamed it would be and an easy transition, from playing in clubs to playing in stadiums, or were there obstacles you had to overcome to become comfortable in your newfound success, I guess would be the right word?
Well, for me, I didn't start out with having dreams of success. It wasn't ever in my in my mind. I was interested in the art form of music and the presentation and creating the music. That was really what was my motivation. I've always been sort of uncomfortable with applause and accolades and award shows and things like that, and really kind of stayed away from that, as much as one could possibly do that in this business. It never was a motivator for me, so I didn't have to adjust, in that sense, to some kind of dream of success, because I didn't have didn't have an expectation of it.
Yeah,
really. Yeah. And with Queensrÿche, we had sort of a different story than most people. We didn't start out in clubs, working our way up and that kind of thing. We released our own original music on an EP and sold 65,000 copies of our first EP on our own record label, which we started. We were very industrious young men. And because of those sales, it was interesting to major labels, and we ended up signing with EMI Records, who reissued our EP and sold 500,000 copies of it. And we went on to become an incredibly popular opening act for most of the popular bands at the time, and most of our career for the first 15 years was opening for other bands. We hardly ever played our own shows. We were just on everybody else's tour, and that's how we gained popularity, was through other bands being giving and open enough to allow us to open for them, and we would influence their audience, and their audience would start listening to us, and that's kind of the way it worked.
So right now you're fronting the band Operation Mindcrime. You just released a new album not long ago titled Resurrection. Geoff, as you've moved through life, progressed through life, has time changed you in any way as it pertains to your music? I mean, songwriting, sound, anything like that?
Oh yeah, of course. You progress and you change and you experiment and you try different things because that's the nature of music. Is it can be anything that you dream it can be, and so I keep trying different things and experimenting with my music, giving it different instrumentation, different working with different collaborating with different writers. Gives you a different sound to your music. I'm always experimenting with sound and trying different things, and it's again one of the things I love about music, is that it is so open-ended. It can be anything that you dream it to be.
Now, do you have your own personal favorite songs on the new album?
Yeah, I think I do. I have songs that I keep listening to periodically. Typically, I don't listen much to my own records. I go back and reference them mostly, for to remember what I did. Really, how'd I do that, or what was I thinking then? That kind of thing. But there's usually a couple songs per record that I gravitate to, and that really depends on the mood I'm in. For this latest record that I released, Resurrection, there's the last song on the album. I'm really happy with the way that turned out, and the sound palette that we settled on and choosing for the song It's called "Live from My Machine," and it's a really quirky, interesting song that is very grand and epic, and I'm very happy with that one. And I keep listening to it. It sounds really amazing on my car stereo.
And I bet it sounds pretty amazing on everyone else's as well. Now, man, other than your music, you're also an entrepreneur. You have a taste for wine. Are you still in the winemaking business?
I am. Yeah, I released my first wine in 2007, and been fairly consistent, releasing vintage a new vintage each year. But I've recently, in the last few years, switched my wine producing operation to Europe, and so my wines are made in Europe now.
Now, besides the wine and music, what other types of interests do you have? I mean, that keep you occupied on your downtime? Do you got any hobbies? Are you a self-titled chef or anything like that, man?
I love to eat. My wife is an amazing chef, and actually studied in France uh, with French cuisine,
Oh,
and
you lucky dog.
she's amazing, and so I don't really have a need to experiment with it. Although I really appreciate her talents at it, and I do my best to sample everything that she makes.
I bet.
Yeah, I'm kind of in charge of the wine. She's in charge of the food. Besides that, we both share a passion for restoration of old houses, and we're on our third old house now. And just recently, this year, we bought a new house. Well, it's an old house. It's 110 years old, and we're in the process of remodeling it. And it's really a labor of love. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful old house with beautiful old woodwork and millwork, and a beautiful style to it. And so what we do is we find a house that we fall in love with, and we get it, and we move in, and we start, from ground up or whatever it needs, and start putting it together. And then that takes a while, and then by the time we finish it, we're probably ready to move on to another house, and so we sell it and move on.
Yeah, so you're a flipper.
Well, not really a flipper, because flippers usually turn over the house within a year or so, but we take like 10 years.
Well, that's pretty cool, man. How about an online presence for people out there listening? Have you embraced social media as a way to interact with your fans, or are you on the fence about it, or?
Oh, no. I've been on the internet since early 90s. Yeah, we were. In fact, Queensrÿche, a lot of people don't know this. We were one of the, if not the first artist ever to do a live internet broadcast of our concert.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't know that. We had one of the first interactive video games. The Promised Land game came out in '94. Yeah, we've been, or I've been, or the band has been involved with social media from the beginning of it. From MySpace to Facebook to Instagram. Yeah, we're on all those.
Yeah. Now, do you have your own personal favorite that you tend to be on more than others, or you got them all connected?
Yeah, they're all connected. Yeah, they all have different things they're great at and good at, and so it's kind of fun to spread yourself out on all of them. Although it's quite a chore to keep up on everything, I tell you.
Yeah, it is. There's so many new ones coming out. I mean, I'm still just the Facebook and Twitter guy. I'm more of a Facebook guy, but they seem like they come out with something new every day, and I'm kind of old school as well, so it's kind of hard for me to adapt to all those things.
Oh yeah. It's hard not being old school when you get to be like our age.
Yeah,
well,
no kidding,
I'm assuming you're my age, but you're probably not that old.
Well, I'm in my mid 40s.
Oh yeah, I'm pushing 60.
Well, I mean, still, I'm in my mid 40s, and I come from the era of not having those types of things. So it's different for me. But I try to learn it, but it's just I don't try to. I don't move on. Let's just say I stick with the Facebook and I stick with the Twitter.
There you go, safe ground.
Yeah. So, man, before we wrap things up here, is there anything you'd like to mention I didn't cover, or anything you'd like to say to your fans out there listening right now?
I'd say, thank you for the continued, support and interest in my music. I appreciate it incredibly, and I do have a new album that's coming out in September, so look for that. It'll be the last album of the trilogy of albums that I'm writing for Operation Mindcrime. So that comes out in September, and then I'll be on tour in the winter.
So one last question, Geoff, if you don't mind. Do you have any words of advice for aspiring musicians out there looking to make it in the business like you have? Any tips or suggestions possibly?
I'd say play from the heart. Always play from the heart.
I like it. Short and sweet and to the point. Geoff, thanks for taking a few minutes out of your day to join me on the show. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
My pleasure, Rob. Thanks for having me on your show. It's awesome.